Καλησπέρα σε όλους. Το βίντεο αυτό είναι αφιερωμένο στην ομάδα Ομοφαγία Νηστιοθεραπεία της Δωροθέας Λαγανά στο Facebook. Μαζί με ένα πολύ μεγάλο ευχαριστώ στη Δωροθέα που κατάφερε να φτιάξει όλο αυτό το υπέροχο πλαίσιο, αυτή την πολύ θετικά φορτισμένη ομάδα, στην οποία όλοι οι άνθρωποι που ενδιαφερόμαστε για την καλή διατροφή, για την καλή υγεία, για την ομοφαγία, μπορούμε να βρισκόμαστε, να αλληλεπιδρούμε, να βοηθάμε ο ένας τον άλλον και να εμπνέουμε ο ένας τον άλλον. Πολλοί λοιπόν αθλητές της ομάδας μας ενδιαφέρονται να μάθουν περισσότερες πληροφορίες σχετικά με τον αθλητισμό και τη διατροφή και ποια τελικά είναι αυτά τα τρόφιμα που αποτελούν τα καλύτερα καύσιμα για τον οργανισμό μας, ώστε να έχουμε τις καλύτερες αθλητικές επιδόσεις. Μαζί με τον σύζυγό μου τον Κωνσταντίνο είχαμε την ιδέα να φτιάξουμε αυτό το βίντεο, καθώς ο Κωνσταντίνος έχει αφιερώσει τη ζωή του στο να φέρνει στην επιφάνεια τον καλύτερο εαυτό των ανθρώπων, είτε κοουτσάροντάς τους, είτε μέσα από ένα project που έχει δημιουργήσει ο Κωνσταντίνος, το οποίο λέγεται Higher Self Manifesto. Έχει το δικό του κανάλι στο YouTube και εκεί πέρα θα βρείτε συνεντεύξεις από ανθρώπους οι οποίοι κυρίως είναι αθλητές και έχουν ένα κοινό. Είναι όλοι τους ομοφάγοι, κυρίως ομοφάγοι, και ακολουθούν μια συγκεκριμένη διατροφή. Οι περισσότεροι λοιπόν ακολουθούν τη διατροφή 80-10-10, 80-10-10, της οποίας εμπνευστής είναι ο Dr. Douglas Graham. Σκεφτήκαμε λοιπόν με τον Κωνσταντίνο ότι είναι μια πάρα πολύ καλή ευκαιρία να βρούμε τον ίδιο τον Dr. Douglas Graham και να του πάρει ο Κωνσταντίνος μία συνέντευξη και να απαντήσουμε σε όσες περισσότερες απορίες και ερωτήσεις έχουν οι αθλητές της ομάδας μας. Ο άνθρωπος αυτός, ο εμπνευστής της δίαιτας 80-10-10, έχει αφιερώσει τη ζωή του στο κομμάτι αυτό, αθλητισμός και διατροφή, πώς αυτά συνδέονται, τι είναι το καλύτερο για μας. Έχει γράψει πάρα πολλά βιβλία, ο ίδιος του κοουτσάρει αθλητές παγκοσμίου φήμης, αθλητές του NBA, τη διάσημη τενίστρια Ναυρατήλοβα, μέχρι και την ηθοποιό Ντέμι Μουρ. Έχει τα δικά του retreats στην Αμερική, όπου κοουτσάρει ανθρώπους, κάνοντας νηστείες, τα πάντα σχετικά με τη διατροφή. Δεν νομίζω ότι υπάρχει άνθρωπος πιο ειδικός από αυτόν να μας δώσει τις πληροφορίες που χρειαζόμαστε. Κάτω από το βίντεο στην περιγραφή θα βρείτε το βιογραφικό του, όλα τα στοιχεία του, για να μην σας κουράζω εγώ άλλο. Θα βρείτε το website του, το Food and Sports, στο οποίο μπορείτε να κάνετε όποια ερώτηση θέλετε, όσες ερωτήσεις θέλετε, όσες φορές θέλετε, και ο ίδιος είναι πάντα εκεί να σας απαντήσει. Είναι ένας εξαιρετικός άνθρωπος και να μην σας κρατάω σε αγωνία, θα φωνάξω τον Κωνσταντίνο για να προχωρήσουμε στο κανονικό βίντεο.
Καλησπέρα παιδιά, αυτό είναι για την ομάδα ομοφαγίας της Δωροθέας Λαγανά. Hello Δωροθέα. Έχουμε ένα ειδικό request να σας κάνουμε ένα βίντεο με τον Dr. Douglas Graham και πιστεύω θα σας αρέσει πάρα πολύ. Αυτό, λοιπόν, ας μπούμε στο ψητό. Hello Doug, how are you doing today?
Oh, fantastic, Konstantinos, thank you. And you?
Really nice. I'm so happy to get another interview from you. It never gets boring.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. So, this interview is from some Greek people because we have a lot of athletes, a lot of marathon especially.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
So, I really want to talk a little bit about the consequences of diet and athletic performance. I know that you already went through it a million times, okay? But I would like for you, if that's okay, to
Sure.
went one more with me.
Sure.
And to try to explain a few things, okay? And this is for everyone who wants to, you know, take care of their diet, what they eat, and actually increase their performance at the same time. And mainly vegans, raw. And the first question is something that I shouldn't ask you, because my personal opinion is that everybody should know that by now. In 2012 I started following what you're talking about, and I read your book 80-10. I haven't met you back then, and I didn't meet you up until 2017 in Denmark, and basically everything accelerated from there. But I read your book in 2012 and I was obese, I was really depressed, I was really in bad form. And I read your book, and this aligned with my decision to go vegan, and we didn't really have a lot of mimic foods but there. So I went into fruits directly, and I experienced myself a massive transformation.
Sure.
Massive transformation. I already told you about it. So I want you to tell us what's the thing with the 80-10-10 diet. What is the 80-10-10 diet exactly?
The 80-10-10 diet is a fairly simple concept where the predominating part of your caloric intake comes from carbohydrates. 80-10-10 is just a ratio of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Obviously this has to add up to 100. And so it's percentages, by percentages, what the physiologists have determined, what the biologists have determined, the various people in more than 50 different health sciences have shown us quite clearly that the human body does its best when it has an adequate supply of carbohydrates. When the carbohydrates go low, various symptoms accrue. Things go awry. We crave, we gain weight quickly, we lose our health, we get diseases, we run out of energy quickly. Just lots of things go wrong if there's an inadequate carbohydrate supply. The protein supply is basically unchanged no matter what diet you're on, unless you're specifically trying to be on a high protein diet. Around the world, most people eat within 5 or 6 percentage points the same amount of protein no matter what diet they're on. But we'll talk more about this for sure, and how to get adequate amounts. And so what I envisioned in my head was really a bit of a seesaw kind of thing. Was as carbohydrates go up, fats must go down, or as fats go up, carbohydrates go down, and we don't want the carbohydrates to go down. What has happened in most parts of the Western world is that we've ended up with a fairly even amount of carbohydrates and fats. Maybe 40 or 45% of carbohydrates, 40 or 45, 50% of fats, and then the remaining part is the protein, being the fulcrum of the seesaw. And again, from the medical research, from the doctors, from the cardiologists and oncologists and pancreas specialty, from so many sciences over the last 80 years, they've shown us that when we eat about the same amount of carbohydrate as fat, diseases accrue really quickly.
Yes.
So I didn't invent something. The 80-10-10 concept has been around for a long time. What I did was say, oh, what would happen if we did 80-10-10, but applied it to our understanding of diet and nutrition and sheer what we call a species-specific food, because every species has food that is appropriate for them.
Exactly.
So lions eat certain types of food, bears eat certain types of food, goats eat certain kinds of food, and the animals that look like goats eat similar kinds of food. You know, the horses and the cows and the goats, and they kind of all graze.
Yeah.
Maybe. And then the carnivores chase something down and eat it. You know, catch it and eat it. And the animals that we look most like pretty much eat fruits and vegetables. That's just all they have. They have fruits and vegetables. In an interesting format though, genetically, we're related to certain animals more and to others less.
Yeah.
The anthropoid primates, monkeys without tails, these animals, even then, we could arrange them by intelligence, we could arrange them by their genetic closeness to us, and we'd come out with the same order. And if we then look at what they eat, what we'll see is the closer they are to us, the greater amount of fruit they eat. The species-specific diet for human beings would be fruits and vegetables. That's what we're designed to thrive on, and pretty much all of the health sciences agree. If you want to be healthy, you need to eat your fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a
Huge revelation.
yeah, it wasn't a revelation. It was just saying, okay, now how do we do this in a way that will work? So, because what most people think is they need to eat tons and tons and tons of vegetables and a little bit of fruit. They think of fruit as a snack, or a fruit as something to have in between meals, or maybe as a dessert at the end. And to actually have fruit predominate your diet, to where you go, oh wow, I'm having fruit for an entire meal, you know. And then if I want some vegetables, I have them, and then fruit again for an entire meal. And if and in terms of total volume, the amount of fruit that I eat in a day is about equal to the amount of vegetables I eat in a day. But in terms of calories, most of my calories come from fruit, and that's what 80-10-10 is about. Now, you could still eat 80-10-10 on an all-cooked diet.
Yes.
The ratio would still be 80-10-10, but you wouldn't get the benefits that we get from eating raw food.
Yeah. Beautiful. Wonderful. Okay. Now, another question is that I have been traveling a lot for the last 5 years and been to a lot of fruit festivals, and I saw that the pattern is that everybody is using your ratio, your book. Everything is based around that, and if it doesn't, then it has some ugly side effects sometimes. So can you talk a little bit about that? What makes it so successful? And I know you already covered the basic, but can you go a little bit how it's so practical? Like,
well, first of all, I'm honored that there are so many fruit festivals have sprung up in the last 20 years since I've started talking about 80-10-10, and since the book came out. It's a real honor, but it's also a heavy responsibility to say, oh, you know, are you sure? You know, because otherwise you're misleading a tremendous number of people. And yes, I'm sure I'm still following the exact same program that I've been following now for 35 years, and it's still working like a charm, and in fact it's working better than ever. And what's special about it? Well, a couple of things are special about it. I think the biggest thing that is special about it is what we refer to as uptake, transport, and delivery. This issue of uptake, transport, and delivery, because we eat food and now it's in our digestive tract, but it has to then get into our bloodstream. This is uptake. Some things get into our bloodstream much more easily with less effort than other things. Fruit being, other than air and water, fruit gets into your bloodstream more easily than anything. It just absorbs right in. It requires very little in terms of digestion. Vegetables take a little bit more, but anything else you eat, we stop going from seconds and minutes. We go into hours and days. Much of the food we eat, especially the more complex food, not only has to finish in your digestive system, it then has to go through your lymphatic system before it can get to your digestive. So it's a much more circuitous route, and it just takes more time and more effort from the body. So the uptake is improved. Then the transport through the bloodstream. Well, certain foods are more sticky than other foods. Certain foods are thicker in the bloodstream than other foods. And what we see is that especially the fatty foods are more sticky, more thick. They slow the blood flow down. They make it more of a sludge. They dehydrate the blood. There's only 5% water in fat, you know, as opposed to carbohydrate, which is almost all water and a little bit of sugar. So
it's on the name as well.
Hydrate, right? Hydrate is in the name. So when we push it through the bloodstream, when the food is trying to get through the bloodstream, because the third part is delivery. Delivery means to the cells, and so the delivery is enhanced. And then finally, by the time we have uptake working better, transport being improved, delivery enhanced. Why is delivery enhanced? It's enhanced because we have a system within our body that is set up to deliver fuel to every cell of the body. Our hormones allow for this. Our cell permeability allows for this. Fats are tougher to get through. It's just harder to. It's a tougher way to fuel the body. Can it be done? Yes, it can be done. At the expense of health. We know high-fat diets are related to heart disease. They're related to diabetes. They're related to cancer production. But not only is the uptake, transport, and delivery of glucose the fuel that we use to fuel every cell of the body, but also the uptake, transport, and delivery of oxygen. You breathe in, it has to travel through your blood. This oxygen has to travel through your blood. If the blood is a bit thicker, we have a problem. If there's more fat in the blood, the red blood cells have a tougher time picking up the oxygen. And so once again, uptake, transport, and delivery are compromised. Well, you know, when oxygen doesn't get to your cells, this creates a low oxygen environment. It promotes the development of cancers. Cancer cells prefer a low oxygen environment. So, I mean, by the time we start saying, oh, we can reduce likelihood of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, this should matter.
Increase your mood as well, because now you can actually have the...
Okay, you get more oxygen to the brain, you get easier access of fuel to the brain, you start thinking far more clearly. Sick people get well. But what's cool is when we take top performing athletes, and these top performing athletes, and you go, okay, let's just experiment for a little while here. It's just an experiment. You know? Let's just see what happens if we give you more fruit. Start giving you access to readily available fuel. And what we see is, for an athlete, the uptake, transport, and delivery of fuel and oxygen, I mean, basically, that's almost all there is to them. That's all. There is a little bit more science. Okay, there's more science to performance than just that. But if they can't get fuel or they can't get oxygen, I mean, all bets are off. Meanwhile, the food itself hydrates you. And I mean, probably in the last 20 years, this issue of hydration has become the biggest one in the world of health, of sports science, because we've finally been able to demonstrate that if a person is even loses 1% of their water, we can measure the amount of performance lost. If they lose 5% of their water, they're going to be pulled off of competitions, pulled out of competitions because it's no longer safe. By the time a person loses 7 to 7.5% of their water, they're usually hospitalized. There's very few people can lose 7.5% and not be hospitalized. So water became a critical issue, and the whole idea of sports drinks and rehydration fluids, and meanwhile carbohydrate is obviously the way to go. So we want to predominate. All of a sudden what I see is athletes not only performing better, thinking more clearly, recovering more quickly, but extension of their career. I used to say, you know, they'll get 10 extra years on their career, but I don't say this anymore because it's not true. They'll get 15, 20 years. I'm seeing 15, 20-year career extensions. It doesn't mean that a world-class ping pong player who's over the hill at 23 is going to make it all the way to 43 and still be world-class. But it's not that long ago that Pam Bodler, one of the athletes that I've had the pleasure to work with, recently won a national championship at the age of 45 in sprint canoe. The next next oldest competitor was 23.
Oh wow!
So, you know, I am seeing it happen. We are seeing tremendous career extension in my own world in powerlifting. They say that what should happen is by the time I hit 40, I should start losing high end. Just a little. By 50. High end, I mean, you have a new age category where they expect less of you, and then at 60 even less, you know. But meanwhile, in the last few weeks I've set a bunch of personal bests. Fantastic. I'm still making performance change. I may change my mind, may say 25 years. I don't know.
Nice. Okay, awesome. Okay, question, how about protein? Everybody's freaking out about the protein.
Well, yeah, I mean
why?
I don't know why. Why? The market forces, the people talk, people talk about everything and they worry about everything. It's a funny world because the people who don't eat well don't seem at all worried about nutrition. And then the people who eat really well are worrying about nutrition, and they're not the ones who really need to.
Yes.
So we can worry about protein, but mother's milk is 6% protein, and babies grow faster than anybody in the whole wide world on just mother's milk at 6% protein. The science has told us that if we eat somewhere between 3 and 10% of our protein, between 3 and 10% of our total calories from protein, we're probably just about on the mark. Go lower than 3, you could have an issue.
Yes.
Go higher than 10, you will have an issue. You start stressing kidneys, you start stressing other organ functions. What does this mean in terms of another way to look at it? Most people will agree at this point that somewhere close, give or take a little bit, of 0.8 grams of protein for every kilo of body weight. And you're good.
Wow, it's way less. Okay, I see. Not 8 grams per kilo.
Not 8 grams per
0.8 grams per kilo. Okay.
Yeah, 0.8. You're pretty much there. 0.6 and you're probably, you'll stay alive.
Yes, yeah.
But you're not going to, you won't be able to peak athlete.
There you go.
Go beyond 1 and you're starting to get into trouble zones.
I see.
So it's just
I see.
that's how it has to be.
Okay.
It's just how it has to be. The math has been in for a long time, but people talk about it because they need something to talk about it, or they have something to sell. I don't know why. I think a more interesting issue is the science that was discovered in the 1940s and 1950s, which is what happens to food when we heat it. And we started being able to look under the microscope at what happens, and what happens to proteins is called denaturing. When you denature proteins, they're because proteins aren't really a substance per se, they're a string of substances called amino acids. There are thousands and thousands, sometimes 50 or 100,000 amino acids to make one protein, even though we're only working with maybe a couple dozen different amino acids. It's kind of like making a paragraph in a book. You only start with 26 letters, but you can write all sorts of things.
Yes.
So the protein is this huge long link of individual amino acids, and when you heat them, they break apart. But when they come back together, they twist and then come back together. And they don't rejoin the same as they did before. So you take some hair and stick it over a flame. You watch how it changes. Or put an egg on a frying pan, watch how it changes instantly. You can never put it back. I think they called that Humpty Dumpty when we were little, right? It'll never be back the way it was before you put it on the frying pan. And so it turns out that when we eat heated proteins, the body attacks those proteins because it recognizes them as being foreign invaders. And so we get what's called a white tide within our blood. The white blood cell count goes from the normal range of 2 to 3 million. It spikes up to 15, 18, 20 million, which is huge. I mean, this would be like your body temperature going from, your body temperature went from 100 to 1800.
So
this would be a big problem. So that normal 2 million is like, it should just hover there all the time. And instead we get this spike after every cooked meal that doesn't happen at all on a raw meal.
And that by itself is a massive indicator of something is wrong.
Well, the body's attacking the foreign proteins, which become inaccessible. So people are talking about eating all this protein, but in reality they're getting very little protein. They're proving that we don't need that much protein because you don't get that much when the protein you eat has already been cooked. Do you get anything from it? Yeah, a little, but not what was there in the first place.
That's it.
So we're kind of living in a dream world with protein.
Okay.
Meanwhile,
good sense though.
Meanwhile, we talk about protein and sure, you have to have enough. But have you ever met anybody with a protein deficiency?
maybe food deficiency. Maybe if
Okay,
you don't eat
food
enough
deficiency.
calories, like
Yeah,
not protein specifically.
But not protein deficiency.
Yeah, and yet
It's
you.
just-
Well, I'm not even gonna go into that.
It's just an unknown. It's an
It's
unknown,
crazy.
right? So but we're scared about it,
Yes,
and
yes.
I don't know.
Eat more protein. Eat
we
more
get scared about a lot of things that are really not even real.
protein. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Wonderful. Now, what are the 3 best advantages of following the 80-10-10 diet? And I want to go specifically for an athlete.
Well, for an athlete, I think the clarity of mind that comes is, I can't overemphasize how important, what a big deal the clarity of mind. Everybody talks about it. Everybody notices it. For myself, what I noticed was the way that I speak to people. I very often digress and then just kind of veer off, and then I'll look at you and go, what were we talking
Yes,
about?
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And that used to happen to me all the time, and then it just stopped.
Yeah.
When it just stopped. And then I don't have the world's best vocabulary, but I have a reasonable vocabulary, and I like to use the right word, and I'd be talking to somebody and I have this word and it's somewhere stuck in the back of my mind and I can't get it out, and I can tell somebody the definition of the word, and then they finally say, oh, you mean baraxia or whatever.
Yes.
And I go, oh yes, that's it. And,
Yes, yes.
and then we can continue. And that stopped happening. All of a sudden the word is there. I didn't have to lose the word anymore.
Wonderful, yeah.
So the recall became much more
And
quick.
more
And then
sharp.
along with that, I noticed my ability to learn was dramatically enhanced. But my awareness of what's going on around me, if we think of it as peripheral vision and peripheral hearing and peripheral awareness, my driving skills improved. I used to be probably the world's most accident-prone person, and then it just stopped happening. The accident proneness just went away. And it wasn't something I really noticed. I wasn't like talk about it. It just but the clarity of mind, I think, is number 1 for an athlete. We've already covered uptake, transport, and delivery. There's no way to enhance athletic performance better than uptake, transport, and delivery, except to improve recovery. And the way you improve recovery is to supply carbohydrates and water in sufficient quantities immediately after workout. Now, when you eat a starch-based meal to get your carbohydrates, it could take 4 to 12 hours for those starches to reach your cells. But when you eat fruit, the starches are on your cells in seconds. Seconds!
From the tongue, right?
After exercise, well, during exercise, as a result of exercise, especially cardio exercise, you produce hormones that enhance the uptake of glucose, production into glycogen, uptake into this whole process is enhanced during exercise because it's needed.
Yes.
If you eat fruit immediately after exercise, you gain a 4 to 8 hour advantage on recovery, as opposed to if you don't eat at all or if you eat anything else other than fruit.
Yeah, of course.
4 to 8 hours this is a huge advantage, meaning that athletes can train harder and still recover faster.
Massive.
So to me, those are the
Massive.
big things.
Massive. Clarity for me was the number 1.
Clarity is huge because
It's
I mean,
epic.
athletes are in motion. Athletes are making so many decisions all the time. It's just a constant. You know, if we start saying, "Oh yes, increased on-court vision," like this is it's so big. You know, you're running through a trail and you can start to trust your feet better. You're not spraining your ankles. You're just making fewer errors. These are the big deals for athlete, I think.
Massive. Thank you. Massive. Now, what are the 3 sacrifices that usually people hesitate to make to enjoy optimal health?
I mean, to be quite honest, my initial answer is you're going to have to sacrifice being sick, talking about being sick, telling your friends about your latest sickness. You're not going to be tired all the time because you require about 20% less sleep in order to be fully rested
Traditional.
than you would have on a cooked food diet. And then, of course, you can no longer complain about being sick and tired of being sick and tired. So those would be 3. Really, change scares a lot of people.
Yeah.
Change, I mean, people not only are they scared of change, but in many cases they're very attached to whatever they're currently having,
Comfort
doing,
zone.
eating.
Yeah.
You know, so I do like to encourage people to just experiment, you know, because one of the challenges is you have to make some change. So instead I say, okay, so let's experiment with a short-term process here where we'll just modify the diet a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll just modify it a little. It's not like overhaul, but people don't like to say goodbye. You know, nobody likes to say, oh, never
Forever?
again. So I
No.
never even think of it as this. You know, it's not a never again situation. It's just, well, for now I just choose. I want to go in this direction, so this is the road I will take.
Yes.
Because it's going to take me where I want to go. Where do you want to go? You know, if in life you want to go down the diabetes, cancer, heart disease, sick and tired route, can't remember stuff,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
then, you know, you can eat the food that everybody else eats because that's what they're getting. But if you're willing to just do the experiment, and then if you like the results,
Yeah.
you can
Exactly.
extend the experiment for another meal or another day or another year or another decade or
Yes, yeah.
whatever that might be. So being willing to let go a little bit, being willing to experiment, this is one of the big challenges. I think the other big challenge is for people who are a little afraid to be different. They're a little afraid, what will my friends say? What will my family say? What will other people say? But you know what? Everybody, your friends want you to succeed in your life. They want the best for you, and if it means that you have to be a little different than them, so be it. Even if they tease you, it's still good-hearted.
Yes.
You know, it's not meant like to crush you.
Yeah.
It's just something fun to talk about. Oh, look at all that fruit. You know, well, okay.
Yeah.
I brought some for you
Yeah,
too.
there you go.
know,
Come
would you
in.
like some? It's really good. So in that sense, but the social side of things isn't a difficulty. It just requires learning new steps to the dance. So I still go out. I still have friends. I still go to parties. I still do all the things I've always done.
Yeah.
But I just had to learn new steps in the dance of life in order to have the social interactions that work for me and work for everybody else that I deal with. And I mean, I've got plenty of friends who eat exactly like me, and I've got plenty of friends who eat completely differently than I do. And I've had friends go both ways with that, you know, to say, I've had friends who eat exactly like me who say, you know what, I wonder what it would be like if I went back and ate the old way. And they're still my friends. I'm not going to give them up just because they want to find out or they forgot why they started eating the, you know.
Yes. Yes.
So, okay, let them go back and find out for themselves again. And it's not a judgment thing, but we're afraid of being judged. The easiest way to not be judged is to just do what everybody else does and just fit right in, you know. But you don't have to. I mean, all the famous people in the world don't fit in. They're different than everybody else. That's why. That's part of why they're, you know, what they're famous about. So, I think most of the issues are paper tigers. They're really just fears. We put up obstacles and say, okay, well, here's the reason why. Here's why I'm not going to try. Okay, that's your choice if you don't want to try.
Yeah.
If you don't want to know, okay. But if you want to find out what's people are just raving about, why are so many people saying, wow, this is the ticket, this is the way. Why do we have world-class performers in almost every sport following the 80-10-10 diet when there's only a few 100,000 people following the 80-10-10 diet? How did they become world-class performers in practically every sport? It shouldn't be, except that it so unleashes your athletic performance, it so unleashes your mental powers, it so unleashes your ability to connect with others. It so unleashes the love in your heart. It so unleashes you to become more of who you are.
Epic. Give it a try. Awesome. Now, someone wants to start. What is the best way? They have absolutely no idea. They might be vegan already, but what's the best way to start?
Yeah, whether vegan or not. Actually, the good news is you get to eat more. I just encourage people to eat more. Eat more fruit, eat more vegetables, eat more whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic plants. If you eat more whole food, you're going in the right direction. If you eat more fresh food, you're going in the right direction. If you eat more raw, ripe plants, you're heading in the right direction. If you eat more organic, all of this is the... Some people like to tiptoe into the swimming pool just a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Other people like to dive in from the deep end. In terms of success, the most successes happen when people just dive in, because then they see the profound difference.
Yes.
And they're not... But it's like, what's the best way to quit smoking? You know, should you go from 20 cigarettes a day to 19, and then do that for a couple months, and then go to 18, and you'll never feel it, but for an extra 30, 40 months you're still going to be smoking cigarettes. I mean, that's a lot of months. That's almost 10 years worth of months. Well, 3 years worth of months. And you know, if you're just like, every time, if you want to learn to eat raw food, the way to do it is to eat raw food, because every time you eat cooked food, it's reinforcing that.
Beautiful.
You know, if you want to learn to be in a relationship with a new girl, you got to kind of commit, because you can't hold on to the old one and still the new one. And that's just, relationships are like this. So the best success happens with full commitment. But the beauty of food is you can do it at one bite at a time. And maybe for most people, they find eat breakfast, they couldn't care one way or another. So why don't you just do breakfast and say, okay, I'll just have fruit for breakfast and see how that works. And then once you start succeeding with that, they go, oh, maybe fruit for lunch wouldn't be so bad. You know, I have fruit before my dinner meal, and then the biggest salad that I can possibly, all vegetables I want. But there's no one way to start. I start people, you know, with, after I take a history on people, I know enough about them to see what might work best for them. But really, it's just, the whole idea is just to eat more fruits and vegetables. And perhaps go to my website where we have free FAQ, or go to my forum where we answer questions for free, so you can ask all the questions you want on the forum. It's called the 801010 forum. So if you just go to the 801010forum.com and you can ask whatever questions
check
you
the
want.
description, everything is there, everything.
So
nice.
I mean, and that's a totally free service that I'm there every day. Best way to start is to hang out with people who already know what they're doing, because the best way to get what you want is to hang out with people who already have what you want. But if you have to do that through books and videos and audios and YouTube and whatever, you know, we have the 801010 channel on YouTube, and you can have, I mean, I've given thousands of videos on thousands of topics, all related to your health development. So you can watch. I meet a lot of people who know me very well before I ever get a chance to meet them. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. It's a great honor. But those are some of the ways that are easy to get started.
I see. Wonderful.
People who want to jump in, they come to a retreat, live with me for a week. And,
wow.
you know,
we're going to talk more about that. Epic. Sorry. So before I go into more about the retreats you're doing, which I'm a massive fan of, I want to ask you a little bit about how your experience as a lifetime athlete and chiropractor affected the way you looked at food.
Well, certainly I like to think that I can look at food a little bit more as if it was just the building blocks, if it's just the fuel, it's just part of my training routine. But in reality, I'm a person, and I like to eat, and I like certain flavors, and I like certain textures, and I like certain mouth feel. and I'm partial to some of that. If you told me I had to eat something horrible and obnoxious, but it would create great performance, I might taste it, but I couldn't do it day in and day out. No matter how, I mean, I just can't eat horrible and obnoxious. So, it's sort of fun when the common sense and the science dovetail so perfectly. You know, you can talk to the farmers and they've been growing fruits and vegetables forever. You look at the religious studies and they go, oh yeah, we were living in a garden. You know, you look at, you read the ancient texts, what the scientists say, primitive man, and you go, well, he was gathering food, obviously, long before he ever learned to hunt in any way, shape, or form. If we look at the ancient teeth and we see, people were just gathering fruits and vegetables because it's not so dangerous to gather fruit as it is to try to hunt down an animal.
And it's basically begging you, eat me.
It's delectable, it's calling your name.
Yes.
So it didn't seem to matter the sense of it. Oh, apple a day, it just makes sense. So it is nice when the science and the sense just completely dovetail, and you can go, oh, not only that, what is your favorite? Everybody's favorite is sweet and juicy. We all like sweet and juicy. That's what mother's milk was sweet and juicy. And we, I hate to use a word, but we perverted a little bit with coffee and cake, or milk and cookies, or ice cream and a donut. It's still sweet and juicy, but it's not healthy food.
It's imitation as well.
So it's an imitation of fruit.
Yeah.
So when I can go back to eating sweet and juicy, sweet and juicy. This is what the sports physiologists say that we need. We need glucose and water. If we go to if we go to intensive care, and we look at what's dripping into the people, it's just sugar water. It's saline. They call it saline because it has a tiny bit of salt, but it's like 1% salt. It's sugar and water. So. Which is sort of funny when we think, what about protein? What about protein? And people are living in intensive care for a few weeks just getting sugar and water. And the doctors aren't worried about their protein either. So,
and this is where they have to live. They have to give them their optimal care possible, right?
It's like the best care possible. Just give them sugar and water. So for the athletes, for me, as a doctor, my understanding of this, I think maybe what I understand is that it's not so dangerous. You know, I'm not going to get into trouble in a week if I change my diet this week and do an experiment. But I don't know. I think at the end of the day, I'm just another person. I just don't have the fears. I understand the science. I have the knowledge. That gives me a little more confidence, perhaps. But in the beginning, I had to step out onto sort of very thin ice or unknown, and the only way that I knew that I was really onto something special, other than the results that I got for myself, which were so profound, because I was a very sick kid. I was always congested. I had this whole issue with not learning and not remembering and not having the recall, and all of a sudden I could run. I could never run in my whole life. I was quick for a few steps, but I could never run, like go run a mile. I'd be completely out of breath. Couldn't finish a mile. And then I went raw vegan, and I went out for a run because I got invited. And it wasn't something I would normally do, but I got invited, so I went and I did a 10K. Just went out and just ran a 10K. And it was like, what? How did that happen? Oh, I went vegan a few days ago. You know, it's just like, oh. It was crazy. But you know, I see all this happen, and I just don't have the worry, maybe, as a doctor, of this could be bad. You know, I was willing to step out onto that thin ice, as it were, and experiment on myself, and found out that it was actually very thick ice. It's thick ice, man. I mean, it's just like, wow, this is solid ground.
Yeah, feels right.
Yeah, this is solid ground. I never tire of sweet and juicy. If I ever tire of sweet and juicy, I eat a celery stalk.
Yeah.
And I just have something that's salty and juicy. You know, it's just wonderful. Life is good. Life is really good with 80-10-10, and the beauty of it, I think that I'm not a big marketer, I'm not a big promoter.
Yeah.
But it has promoted itself. The fruit festivals are popping up all over the world.
Yeah, exactly.
The word is getting out that if you want to see your peak performance, you're gonna go on 80-10-10. There's no question.
Awesome. Talking about retreats and festivals, tell me a little more. What are you doing in Sidro? I've been there 2017, 2018. I loved it for the whole events, everything. Tell me a little bit about how you categorize it. What are the different retreats you are offering, and what are the transformations that you witnessed through these retreats?
Well, with Razi and I, we've developed about a dozen different types of retreats over the years, and that we feel help to foster profound development in people, to help them bring about big change in their health. Mostly it's about rubbing shoulders with successful people who are doing what you want to learn how to do. So bring in people who have been following the program for a long time, people I've trained personally to become raw food chefs or to become teachers in different aspects of healthful living. And then we run different programs. So we run a health and fitness program that I've been running since 1996, where we teach people about sport and the fun of sport and how to train well and eat well and foster physical development, both physique and performance, whatever you know where you want to go with that. And we run culinary skills retreats, teaching people how to prepare, how to shop for, store, you know, and do all the things that happen with your food, how to entertain with an 80-10-10 diet, how to make your family happy on 80-10-10, you know, so that
even if they're not eating,
it's not just put a banana in front of them, but do something. There are 100 different ways to prepare a banana. I offer skills week where people just say, okay, how do I want to do 80-10-10, but I really want to do it right. What are the things that people tend to do wrong? How do we, you know, what are my concerns? And it's a little bit of a mishmash, but anything that you would consider beginners want to learn. And oddly enough, that course is almost never has beginners. Instead, what it has is people who've been trying for a couple of years and struggling, and they come and say, okay, now I finally want to get this right. And let's see, how do we do 80-10-10 properly? I run a fasting retreat where people can do some rejuvenation, serious rejuvenation.
Costa Rica.
Well, I'm doing it right in Sidro Willie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we do those in Sidro Willie.
Nice.
We do things with social skills. Just all different types of retreats, and they're all just fun. We do one just for ladies.
I see.
This year we'll do the culinary skills. We'll do health and fitness week. We'll do 80-10-10 skills, and we'll be offering a fast where people have 16 to 20 days to really recover, break some old bad habits, develop some new healthful habits, come home with a tremendous amount of education about healthful living. And that really, I think the education is the thing that makes the most in terms of performance change and outlook change.
It makes sense.
So we just have a really good time. And it's fun to immerse. I mean, this is where people make the fastest development, is in an immersion situation, whether you're trying to learn a language or a skill or new habits. So coming for 2 or 3 weeks and just immersing yourself into the lifestyle is, I think for me it's really fun because it feels like family. We intentionally keep the entire group. We never have more than about 15 guests, so that it can become very personal with each person, get to know them all, have 3 meals a day with them, sit down at every lecture and every type of presentation, fitness activities before meals. We just have a lot of fun. Basically, we just learn to have fun being a healthy individual.
Epic. This year, I'm probably gonna be having a baby around the time.
Yeah,
But
takes priority.
yes, I
Babies
think
take
it's gonna
priority.
become first. Yes,
Well, hopefully we'll have you back.
Exactly, with a baby.
Yeah, with a baby.
And Vasiliki. Okay, perfect. I can't wait.
It'll be fun. Yeah, really good.
Perfect. Okay, I think that's it for starters. Okay.
Oh, thank you once again. You know, it's a treat to spend time talking with you. I'm happy to be able to give. It's
Thank you.
Appreciate you getting me out there a little bit, and hopefully I'll get to meet some of the people that you influence.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit, if someone wants to work with you, you have any email that they can approach you, or they should all go into your website?
Yeah, they just go to the website.
Just
It's
go to
Food
the
and Sport. It's 10 letters. The word food, the letter N, like Nathan, and the word sport. So foodandsport.com. If they go there, they can find out anything they need to find out. It's easy to contact me from that channel.
Fantastic.
And that's the easiest way.
Again, check the description. Every link is in there. Okay.
Oh, bless. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doug. Thank you. I really appreciate
Cool.
your time.
My pleasure.
That's it, guys. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Μέχρι την επόμενη φορά, με αγάπη, από Αγγλία, Κωνσταντίνος Κοτσώνης. Γεια σας.